The city was burning. Smoke filled the sky, turning it dark gray, and the sound of explosions shook the ground. Buildings that once gleamed with alien architecture were now piles of rubble. Streets were littered with broken vehicles and fallen statues. Everywhere, fires burned, and the screams of the wounded echoed through the ruins. In the heart of the city stood the palace. It had been magnificent once, with tall spires and shining walls. But now, it was cracked and scorched. Inside, the alien queen, Zalira, stood on what remained of her throne. Her greenish-blue skin reflected the flickering lights of the fires outside, and her long silver hair floated as if it had a life of its own. She wore a regal gown that was torn in places, and her sharp eyes scanned the room. The palace was under attack. The enemy had broken through the outer gates, and their ships hovered overhead, firing energy beams into the walls. Zalira's guards were panicking. They ran from room to room, some carrying weapons, others carrying small devices meant to protect her. But the fear in their eyes was clear. When the queen called them to form a line, they hesitated. "Hold the line," Zalira shouted, her voice echoing through the hall. "Do not abandon me." But one by one, her guards turned and fled. Some ran out into the streets, hoping to escape the bombardment. Others hid in side corridors, shaking and whispering prayers. Zalira's heart pounded with a mix of anger and fear. She had ruled her people for decades, led armies, and faced entire fleets alone. Yet now, when she needed them most, they left her. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. She was not helpless. She had survived wars before, but she knew she could not fight all the attackers alone. Her attendants, small and trembling, looked to her for guidance, but their eyes were full of worry. At that moment, a loud crash shook the palace. A wall on the far side of the hall collapsed, and dust filled the air. From the smoke and debris, a figure appeared. It was a human, wearing battered armor and carrying a small rifle. His movements were precise, controlled, and confident. His brown hair was messy, and his face was streaked with dust and blood. Ryan Cole, a human soldier far from home. He had been part of a joint defense force, working with different species to repel the invaders. But now, separated from his unit after a collapsing tunnel, he moved carefully through the ruins, looking for survivors. His eyes caught a flicker of a distress signal near the palace. He followed it, unsure of what he would find. He stepped into the throne hall just as another blast hit near Zalira. Shards of broken metal and stone flew through the air. Without thinking, Ryan lunged forward, tackling the queen behind a fallen pillar. The shards missed them by inches. Dust and smoke filled the air, and Ryan shielded her with his body, his heart racing. Zalira stared at him, wide-eyed. She had fought many enemies, faced impossible odds, and yet never had a human risk his life to save her. "Who are you?" We, she whispered, still crouched behind the pillar. "I'm a soldier," Ryan said, his voice steady. "I protect people. You're the person I protect right now." Zalira blinked. "My guards. They left me." Her voice trembled with both anger and disbelief. Ryan shook his head. "They were scared. Fear makes people run. But I don't run when someone needs help." Another explosion shook the hall, and the ceiling cracked above them. Ryan grabbed Zalira's arm and pulled her to a more stable corner. "We have to move. Stay close, and follow my lead." Zalira hesitated but followed. She had always relied on her strength and her guards. Now, for the first time, she had to rely on someone else. A human. She had heard stories of humans being reckless, selfish, and unpredictable. Yet here he was, calm and focused, saving her life. They moved carefully through the debris. Ryan's eyes scanned every corner, every shadow. He led her through a side corridor, avoiding falling rubble and broken machinery. Zalira followed silently, trying to keep her fear in check. She had fought entire armies, but this close, with the enemy so near, her heart pounded like never before. A loud crash echoed from the main hall. Ryan paused and listened. The enemy was moving closer. Drones hovered at the entrance of the corridor, scanning for movement. Ryan whispered, "We can't fight them head-on. We have to be smart." He looked around and noticed a small maintenance hatch in the wall. It was narrow, barely wide enough for an adult to crawl through. He signaled Zalira, "This way. It's tight, but it's safer than the main corridor." Zalira nodded, swallowing her pride. She crouched low and followed Ryan through the hatch. The tunnel was dark, dusty, and smelled of burnt metal. Her hands brushed against the rough walls as she moved, and her pulse slowly began to calm. After several minutes, they emerged into a larger chamber. Sunlight filtered through holes in the ceiling, and the sounds of distant explosions were softer here. Zalira looked around, seeing broken statues and cracked floors, but for the moment, they were safe. Ryan knelt and checked his gear. His rifle was scratched, and his armor had several dents, but he was still functional. He turned to Zalira. "We need to keep moving. The city is not safe. The enemy will find us if we stay." She studied him. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But I know right from wrong. And right now, leaving you would be wrong." Zalira felt a strange emotion she had not felt in years. Trust. She did not fully understand it, but she felt it toward this human. She had ruled with fear, power, and strategy, but this simple act of protection, this willingness to risk everything for her life, made her pause. They moved again. Slowly and carefully. The corridors twisted, leading them past collapsed staircases and fallen beams. Ryan pointed out safe spots and low ceilings, where they could hide from enemy sensors. Zalira followed every instruction, impressed by his calm and precise movements. At one point, a drone floated down a side passage, its sensors scanning for life signs. Ryan grabbed Zalira and pressed her into a recessed wall. He raised his hand, signaling her to stay still. The drone passed without noticing them. Zalira held her breath, realizing how easily death could come, and how much this human soldier was keeping her alive. After the drone passed, she whispered, Thank you." Ryan nodded. "We're not out of danger yet, but for now, keep moving." They continued, moving deeper into the palace. The halls became narrower, the ceilings lower. Dust fell from above with every step. Zalira's mind raced. She had been a queen, a leader of fleets, a commander of armies. Now, she was following the orders of a human soldier through the ruins of her own palace. Yet she did not feel powerless. She felt alive. For the first time, she wondered what it would mean to trust someone outside her species, what it would mean to see a human not as a conqueror or invader, but as a protector. Ryan paused at a collapsed stairwell. "We can climb this to reach the service tunnels. It's dangerous, but faster than the long way around." End quote. "Lek them on." One toot. Zalira studied the rubble. The stairs were cracked and unstable, yet she saw no hesitation in Ryan's eyes. "I will follow you," she said, her voice steady. "Lead the way." He helped her over the first broken step, then climbed himself. They moved slowly, carefully, each step a small risk. Dust and small rocks fell with every movement, but neither faltered. Finally, they reached the top of the rubble and peered into a service tunnel that led toward the outer walls of the palace. Sunlight streamed through holes in the roof, and for a brief moment, they saw hope. Ryan looked at her. "Almost there. Stay close, and don't panic." We'll make it out together. Zalira nodded. She did not fully understand humans, but she understood this. This one human soldier was willing to risk everything to keep her alive. And for the first time, she felt a strange warmth toward another being, one that had nothing to do with power, rank, or fear. As they entered the tunnel, moving toward an uncertain future, the sounds of battle faded behind them. But the memory of the guards who had abandoned her would stay with Zalira. She would never forget. Yet, she thought quietly, maybe not all hope was lost. Maybe humans, stubborn and brave, could be allies in a way no one had imagined. And maybe, just maybe, this human soldier was the proof. Ryan led Galira through the service tunnel. The walls were cracked, and wires hung loose from the ceiling. Dust covered everything, and the smell of smoke and burnt metal was strong. The sound of distant explosions and collapsing buildings echoed faintly from outside. For now, the tunnel was quiet. But Ryan knew danger was never far. "How far is this tunnel?" Zalira asked. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of worry. "It should lead us to the lower city streets," Ryan said. "From there, we can try to reach the docks. Some Allied ships might still be patrolling the river." Zalira nodded. She followed closely, careful not to trip on debris. She noticed how Ryan checked every corner, every shadow. He moved with quiet confidence, scanning for traps, looking for unstable walls, and listening for enemy patrols. She could see why he survived battles humans told stories about. They turned a corner, and the tunnel opened into a large room. Pipes ran along the walls, and broken machinery lay scattered across the floor. Sunlight came through holes in the ceiling. But the room was dusty and dim. Ryan paused, crouched down, and checked his map. "We can take the maintenance corridor," he said. "It leads out to the street near the old market. We'll have cover and less chance of being seen." Zalira frowned. "The market? I thought that area would be destroyed." "Mostly," Ryan said. "But it will give us hiding spots and some routes to move forward." As they moved, Ryan glanced at Zalira. She was watching him closely, almost studying his every move. She had always relied on strength and armies, but now she was learning to rely on strategy, on timing, and on someone else's instincts. After a few minutes, the tunnel narrowed. Ryan led her through carefully, ducking under pipes and stepping over fallen cables. Dust fell from the ceiling as they moved. But he went first, shielding her from any danger. Suddenly, a noise came from behind them. The scrape of metal against concrete echoed in the tunnel. Ryan stopped and signaled for Zalira to stay quiet. He pressed himself against the wall and raised his hand. The sound was soft but steady. "Drones," he whispered. "They are searching for life signs. Stay close and don't make any noise." Zalira's heart pounded. She had faced enemies before, but never like this. Never with a human as her only protector. She swallowed her fear and crouched low, letting Ryan lead. The drones floated past, scanning the tunnel, but Ryan's careful movements kept them hidden. Once the drones moved on, Ryan exhaled slowly. "We're clear for now," he said. "But we need to keep moving. They'll come back." They emerged into the lower city streets. The buildings here were half destroyed, and fires burned in piles of rubble. Broken vehicles littered the roads, and the smell of smoke and ash was stronger. Ryan scanned the area, spotting shadows that could be enemy patrols. "Follow me," he said, moving toward a broken alley. "We'll use the ruins for cover." Zalira followed, her long cloak brushing against the rubble. She could feel the weight of her status as a queen. But here, it mattered little. She was just another being, trying to survive. Yet, she trusted this human soldier completely. He had already saved her life once. And now, she followed his lead. Without question. They moved carefully through the streets. Ryan pointed out safe spots where they could hide if drones or patrols appeared. He taught her how to stay low, how to move quietly, and how to use the ruins as shields. Zalira listened and copied his movements. For the first time in her life, she felt small and vulnerable, but also protected. After a while, they came to a destroyed plaza. The fountain in the center had collapsed, and the water had long dried. Enemy drones hovered above, scanning for life. Ryan pulled Zalira behind a fallen wall and checked his weapon. His armor was scratched, but still functional. "We need to cross the plaza," he said. "But it's risky. We can use the shadows and the ruins to move quickly." Zalira nodded. "I will follow your lead." They waited for a moment, watching the drones. Ryan counted the movements and studied the patterns. Then, when the drones moved away, he signaled Zalira. "Now," he whispered. They sprinted across the plaza, ducking behind walls and debris. Dust rose under their feet, and their hearts pounded. A drone spotted movement and fired a warning shot. But Ryan pushed Zalira to the ground and rolled behind a pillar. The shot hit the wall above them, sending fragments flying. Zalira looked at him, wide-eyed. "How do you stay so calm?" she asked. Ryan shrugged, brushing dust from his armor. "Training and experience, and keeping your mind on one thing. The person you're protecting." They continued, moving through narrow alleys and half-destroyed buildings. At one point, they came to a collapsed bridge over a small canal. The bridge was cracked and unstable, but Ryan studied it carefully. He found a path across the rubble and led Zalira slowly and carefully. Each step had to be measured, each movement precise. When they reached the other side, Zalira touched the ground with relief. "You are very careful," she said. "Far more careful than my guards." Ryan smiled faintly. "My job isn't to show off. It's to keep you alive." They rested for a moment behind a pile of rubble. Zalira noticed his arm had a small cut, bleeding slightly. Instinctively, she reached for a piece of her cloak and tore it to wrap around the wound. "You're not badly hurt," she said. "But this should help." Ryan nodded. For a few minutes, they simply breathed, listening to the distant sounds of battle. Zalira watched him and realized that humans were stubborn and brave. They could face impossible odds, and they did not run when someone needed help. She felt a strange respect, even admiration, for this human soldier who protected her when everyone else had fled. They moved again, heading toward the river district. The streets were narrower here, with more debris and overturned vehicles. Ryan pointed out safe paths, teaching Zalira how to step lightly, how to avoid loose rubble, and how to keep her presence small. She followed, learning quickly. Suddenly, they heard voices and footsteps. Enemy soldiers were patrolling nearby. Ryan pressed Zalira against a wall and raised his hand. "Stay still," he whispered. "They're close." They crouched behind a collapsed building as the soldiers passed. Ryan counted their steps and waited until they were far enough away. Then, he led Zalira down a side alley, moving quickly but quietly. As they moved, Zalira asked, "Why do you risk yourself for me? You could leave and survive." Ryan shook his head. "Humans don't always run. Sometimes we stay to protect others. And right now, you need me." Zalira was silent for a moment, thinking. She had always relied on armies, on fleets, on guards. Yet here, one human was enough to protect her. The thought surprised her, and she felt a new kind of hope. They reached the river district as the sun began to set. The canals were half dry, and the buildings were mostly ruins. Fires burned in the distance, and smoke filled the air. Ryan checked his map again. The docks are not far. We can reach a small landing point where allied ships might be. Zalira looked at him, exhausted but determined. Then we move quickly. We cannot stay here long. They ran through the streets, dodging rubble and broken vehicles. At one point, a patrol drone appeared overhead. Ryan grabbed Zalira and pushed her into the shadow of a collapsed building. The drone hovered, scanning the area. But Ryan used a small device to emit a pulse, temporarily confusing its sensors. The drone drifted away, and they continued. Finally, after hours of careful movement, they reached a small clearing near the river. Boats were destroyed, but a landing platform remained. Ryan signaled for her to wait. "I'll scout first," he said. Then we moved to the ship. Zalira watched him, noting the precision and calm in his actions. She realized that this human was not reckless or foolish. He was careful, brave, and capable. More than that, he cared for her life as much as his own. When Ryan returned, he helped her onto the platform. "Almost there," he said. "We just need to hold this position until help arrives." They crouched behind some crates, waiting. Enemy drones were still in the area, but Ryan's careful positioning kept them hidden. Zalira looked at him, and for the first time, she felt a strange trust in another being. One that was not her own kind. As night fell, the distant sounds of battle faded slightly. Ryan and Zalira waited, side by side, ready for whatever came next. She knew the city was still dangerous, and that their journey was far from over. But she also knew that, with this human soldier, she had a chance to survive. And for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. The night was quiet, but danger was everywhere. The streets of the ruined city were filled with shadows and broken buildings. Smoke rose from burning fires, and the smell of ash and burnt metal hung in the air. Ryan and Galira moved carefully, sticking close to walls and hiding behind debris. The city was deadly, and they knew enemy forces were still hunting for survivors. "We need to keep moving," Ryan whispered, scanning the streets. "The docks are our best chance. We might find a ship or a craft to take us out." Zalira followed silently, her eyes alert. She had grown used to depending on Ryan. She trusted him completely, even though she had never met a human like him before. He was brave, careful, and always thinking ahead. She realized that humans could be stubborn. In a good way, they did not give up easily, even when the odds were against them. As they crept through the streets, they saw the city was worse than they imagined. Buildings were collapsed. Cars were overturned, and fires burned everywhere. Civilians ran through alleys, screaming and carrying whatever belongings they could grab. Zalira's heart ached at the sight. She had ruled this city once, protected it with her armies, and now it was in ruins. "This is terrible," she said quietly. "My people, my city." Ryan put a hand on her shoulder. "We can't save everything, but we can survive. That's the first step. Then, we help where we can." They turned a corner and froze. A patrol squad of enemy soldiers was moving down the street ahead. Their weapons glowed, scanning for life. Ryan crouched behind a ruined wall and pulled Zalira down with him. "Stay low," he whispered. "We'll move when they pass." They waited, hearts pounding. The patrol scanned the area carefully, their footsteps echoing on broken concrete. Ryan watched their movements, counting the steps, studying the timing. Finally, the patrol moved past, and he led Zalira quickly but quietly into a side alley. "That was close," Zalira whispered. "Too close," Ryan said. "We need to be smarter. They'll send more squads once they know we're alive." They moved deeper into the ruins. The city streets narrowed, with rubble on all sides. Ryan pointed out paths that offered cover. and suggested ways to avoid drones overhead. Xalira followed, learning quickly how to move quietly and avoid detection. Suddenly, a drone appeared above the alley. Its sensors scanned for life signs. Ryan grabbed Xalira and pressed her against the wall. He pulled a small device from his belt and activated it. A pulse of energy disrupted the drone's sensors, making it hover confusedly before moving on. "Good thinking," Xalira said, impressed. "Humans are clever." Ryan shrugged. "We survive by being clever. Sometimes brains are better than weapons." They continued through the alley, reaching a broken plaza. The buildings around it were shattered, and smoke rose from the ruins. Ryan paused to check his map. "We need to cross the plaza to reach the next alley. It's open, but we can move quickly and stay low." Xalira nodded. She trusted Ryan completely. She followed him as he led the way, moving quickly from cover to cover. A drone hovered nearby, but Ryan threw a small device that emitted light and sound, distracting it. They dashed across the open area, reaching safety on the other side. "Almost there," Ryan said, breathing heavily. "We just need to reach the industrial sector. It has old tunnels and pipes we can use to hide and move faster." They entered the industrial sector. The buildings here were empty and damaged, with broken pipes and machinery everywhere. Ryan led Xalira to a service corridor that ran underground. It was dark, narrow, and dusty, but it offered safety from enemy patrols. "This way," Ryan said. "We can move faster down here, and the drones won't see us." As they crawled through the tunnel, Ryan checked for traps and weak spots. He moved carefully, but quickly. Xalira followed, noticing how precise his movements were. He had already saved her life once, and now he was leading her through dangerous territory with skill and confidence. After several minutes, they emerged into a large underground chamber. It had once been a storage area, now filled with broken crates and rusted machinery. Ryan stopped to catch his breath. "We need to rest for a moment," he said. "Then we move to the river. It's the fastest way out." Xalira sat down, exhausted. "Humans are strange," she said, trying to smile. "You risk your life for others. My guards would have run without thinking." Ryan smiled faintly. "Some humans are stubborn. We don't like to run when someone needs help." Ryan. They rested briefly, listening to the faint sounds of the city above. Enemy patrols moved carefully, but Ryan was confident they had a small window to move. He stood and offered his hand to Xalira. "Let's go. Almost there." They climbed through a narrow shaft that led back to the surface. The city looked different at night, fires lighting up parts of the ruins and casting long shadows. Ryan scanned the streets, spotting patrols and drones. "We need to move along the rooftops," he said. "Less chance of being seen." Xalira followed, balancing carefully as they moved across broken roofs. She could feel the height beneath her, but Ryan's calm guidance helped her stay steady. They jumped gaps, ducked under fallen beams, and avoided weak structures. Suddenly, a patrol drone appeared, scanning for life. Ryan signaled Xalira to stay behind a wall. He used a small device to send an energy pulse, confusing the drone. It hovered, then moved on, leaving them in safety. "This human skill is amazing," Xalira whispered. "You save life after life." Ryan smiled. "We do what we can, and right now, we protect each other." They continued, moving carefully toward the river district. The docks were not far now, but the city was still dangerous. Ryan led Xalira through alleys and ruined buildings, avoiding patrols and hiding from drones. He showed her how to move quietly, how to watch for danger, and how to trust her instincts. Finally, they reached the river. The water reflected the fires from the city, and broken ships lay half-submerged along the banks. Ryan pointed to a small landing platform. "There," he said. We can wait for allied ships or a craft to pick us up. Xalira looked at the platform. It was small and damaged, but it offered hope. She realized that without Ryan, she would never have reached this point. Her guards had fled, but this human soldier had stayed. He had risked everything for her. As they approached the platform, enemy patrols appeared on the other side of the river. Ryan signaled for Xalira to hide behind a crate. He checked his weapon and scanning devices. "They're moving toward us," he said. "We need to hold this position until help arrives." Xalira crouched, watching him. She felt a strange trust, even admiration. Humans were stubborn, brave, and clever, and this one human soldier had saved her life and guided her through a city filled with death. She realized that humans could be allies in a way no one had imagined. They waited, side by side, ready for whatever came next. The city was still dangerous, but they had made it this far. And for the first time, Xalira felt hope that they could survive, maybe even find a way to save more of her people. Ryan looked at her. Exhaustion on his face, but determination in his eyes. "Almost there," he said. "We just need to hold out a little longer." Xalira nodded, staying close to him. She had learned to trust him, to follow his lead, and to believe that not all humans ran from danger. Together, they would face whatever came next, side by side, as they fought to survive in a city filled with enemies. And in that moment, amidst the ruins and the smoke, Xalira understood something new. Courage and loyalty could come in unexpected forms, and a single human soldier could make a difference that no army could.